Stitchy friends. How is everybody doing? Today is Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. Can you believe we are now officially halfway through the year? July 1st is here. I can hardly believe it. It feels like summer is going so quickly and it just started. But welcome. This is The Runner Stitcher, my channel where I talk primarily about my cross-stitch journey, a little bit about running as well, and Winston makes an appearance sometimes, and he is here this morning, although he's very tired, which I am too. We are feeling very lazy today, but that's okay. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy what you see and stick around for more, and hit the subscribe button if you feel so inclined. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back and spending a little bit of time with me. I know there's so much out there right now with whip parades, and the Flosstube world is just booming right now, which is awesome. So I really appreciate you taking some time to spend with me and see what I've been up to this week. So let's just jump right in today. So the first thing I want to talk about is my running, and that is the marathon training that I'm doing for #WhipIntoShape. So I created a challenge where I challenged each of you to stitch 10 stitches for every mile that I run during my marathon training. And I announced last week where I was going on my marathon, that I'll be doing the race in Sydney, Australia, which is super exciting. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who left kind comments on the video with your excitement and your support. That meant the world to me, and I am very excited. I still almost cannot believe it's happening, but very excited to be running the race in Australia. So as I train for the race, I've got a spreadsheet that is linked down below in most of my videos. You can also go back and check out video number 45. I think that's where I talk about it kind of all in particular. But you can follow that spreadsheet and stitch 10 stitches for every mile that I run, or you can stitch the amount of time on a whip that you really want to see some progress on. You can stitch the amount of time that I run as well. All of that's in the spreadsheet. So we just completed week 6, I believe, and that means for a total we're at 250.2 miles that I've run. That's 2,502 stitches, and the total time is 37 hours and 7 minutes. So yeah, it's been a lot. This morning I had an 8-mile run, and the humidity just got the better of me today. I just feel exhausted right now, and it was a really tough 8-mile run. These weekday runs are also increasing, so the number of miles that I run each week is getting harder and increasing, and with the humidity and the heat, there are days where I'm just tired. So that's where I'm at this morning. I've got my coffee to try to help me get through this. But yeah, it was a really tough run this morning, so I definitely appreciate all of your stitching support. I thought about you as I was running, and I just had to get it done. But glad to put that one behind me, and then we'll move forward. You may have noticed in the training schedule, if you're following along, I did sort of bump up all of the days by one day this week. The reason for that is Sunday is supposed to be a very hot day here in New York, and I was supposed to run 17 miles that day. So I figured even if I could get it 10 degrees cooler on Saturday, then that would probably be better for a 17-mile run. So I bumped everything up by one day. It kind of worked out this week because I have some time off from work over the holiday, and so I was able to kind of just scoot everything up each day so that I can run my 17 miles on Saturday, when hopefully it will be just ever so slightly cooler and every little bit counts. But yeah, so I'm really excited. The next 2 weeks, this week and next week, are going to be some of the highest mileage weeks we've seen yet. So we're still ramping up. We're still getting there. But yeah, excited to be, basically over halfway through the training now, and we'll just keep going. So the piece that I'm stitching for #WhipIntoShape is the Fruits of Plenty. This is by Modern Folk Embroidery, and here is what this is going to look like in the end. And I know a couple of other people are stitching this for the challenge as well, which is super exciting. And yeah, I'm very happy to see consistent progress on this piece. So I will put a picture up here of where I was when I first started the challenge. So that was, weeks ago. Now we've got in probably about 2,500 stitches in this piece, and I will show you where I'm at now. All right, so that's where I'm at. This week I was able to add 359 stitches, and that includes today's 8-mile 80 stitches as well. So that puts me at 49.8%. So close to 50, but that means next week this should be at 50%, which is super exciting. This is stitched on a 32 count smoky white Zweigart printed fabric, and I'm using 2 DMC 2 strands over 2. The section that I worked on this week is right here. I decided to sort of bring down this motif outline here. So it's going to be similar to this one, where you'll have this sort of borders around the edges. And so I got the largest border completed there, which is super exciting. It looks like it's a little off now because some of the border does go into this little section here, but it's not. Everything lined up and it's good. As you can see on this side, it also goes into the border a little bit, the edge there. But yeah, so that was really good, and that felt much easier for me to do than more vines. I kind of wanted a break from the vines. I thought about stitching the second squirrel, which I think he goes in like right here. But then, I just decided, no, I want to do these outlines. That will be easy to count and sort of easy way to get in the stitches. So that's where I'm at. That is super exciting. Okay, now let's jump into my whips. Whips are works in progress, and these are pieces that I have previously started and got a little bit more stitching done on them this week. So I want to start by talking about my temperature stitching. Oh, actually, before I do that, so total, since the last time I saw you, I was able to add about 3,005 stitches. So that's a pretty decent stitching week again for me, which was exciting. But let's jump into temperature stitching. So for temperature stitching, I have picked 3 different projects, and I've assigned them digits between 0 and 9. And then I look at the high temperature for each day, and whatever digit is the second digit of the high temperature, I choose that project and stitch 100 stitches. So last week, the first project I'm going to show you is Autumn is Joyful. This is a Quaker piece by Lila Studio. This was called for 2 days of temperature stitching, so 200 stitches. I managed to get in 232 stitches, which puts me at 20.33%. 20% done, that's awesome. I will pop in a video here of where I was when I started. Here's the starting point for Autumn is Joyful. I think I've got 200 stitches to put into it, so I will be focusing on this motif here. I'll add in those 2 leaves, and I should have a little bit more to do after that. So I'm not sure where I'll go, but you'll see it now. And here is where I got to. So I was finishing out this motif here. I think I had all of the squirrels in before, but I did not have any of the leaves or the back stitching. And I also did not have the lighter color here of the acorn. You can see in the center of each motif there's an acorn with a sort of lighter top, and I did not have that completed either. So that got me the 232 stitches. So that motif is now fully complete. I'm stitching this on a 40 count Winter's Brew by R&R Reproductions. I'm using the Vicky Clayton Silk Pack, doing 1/2. And I absolutely love it. I just love these motifs that Lila Studio comes up with. They're very fun to stitch. So that is awesome. That still has a few more days left in its goal for temperature stitching, so this will continue coming out and you'll see it a little bit more. My next piece for temperature stitching was in the new start category, and this was a start that I had at StitchCon with my table mates. This is called a French Rose. This is by Running with Needles and Scissors. It's that beautiful piece there, and I'm stitching it sort of a tone-on-tone version. This was called for 2 days, so 200 stitches as well. I will pop a video in here of where I was when I started. Okay, here's my starting point for French Rose. I'm going to be continuing this top border here, so I'll just be carrying that out. We'll see how many stitches I get in. And I was able to add in 210 stitches, so I got my full 2 days in, and I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but basically what I did is I brought this top border all the way, across to here. It's not quite all the way over, it still has a little bit of space to go, but that design was a lot of fun to stitch, honestly, and I really do love how this is coming out. I know it really blends into the fabric, especially when you pull it back, but when you look at it and in person, it looks more like this. So you can definitely still see the stitching. You can see the colors come out on this fabric, but it's really pretty. I think once we get the big rose in there, it's gonna be really gorgeous. So had a lot of fun with this. This is stitched on a 40 count curtain call by Lap and Loops, and I'm using almond M&M silks. I think the colorway is French something. But yeah, beautiful silks and a lot of fun to stitch on. So that is 200 stitches on a French rose. And last for temperature stitching is Halloween Quaker. This is the one you voted for on Which Whip. Here is what this piece is going to look like. It's by Lila Studio, another one of these beautiful Quakers that I absolutely love. And this was called for 3 days. So this was supposed to get 300 stitches. I will pop a video in here where I was when I started. All right, here's my starting point for Halloween Quaker. I'm going to be working on this motif right here, this little black motif. And then there's a gigantic Quaker going right here, so I'll probably try to start on that if I finish the small one. And I was able to add in 346 stitches, and which that puts me at 28.03% on this piece, which is super exciting. I also just realized that all 3 of my temperature stitching pieces are 40 count. I don't know what I'm doing to myself, but I think Autumn is as Joyful is close to meeting its goal, and I think once that is out of that slot, I will pick something that's a little easier to see so I don't have all 3 40 count projects in my temperature stitching. But here is where I got to on this piece. So basically what I did this time is I completed this little motif here so I could work my way over to this. This is going to be the biggest motif I think in the whole piece. So I really wanted to get some progress on that, and that's what I ended up working on. So here is the rest of it. This does go all the way to the end. So this is the edge here, but I'm really loving how this is looking so far, and definitely excited to be getting some progress on this big motif here. This is, like I said, this is also a 40 count. I think it's Haunted by Seraphim Fabrics, and again using the Vicky Clayton silks and 1/2. So this will be fun to pull back out. All right, next up we've got one of your favorites and one of my favorites as well. This is Saga by Long Dog Samplers. Here is a picture of what this is going to look like. And I know a lot of other people are working on Saga and a bunch of different long dogs right now, which is super exciting. So I will put a video in here where I was when I started last week. Here is my starting point for Saga for the week, and I'm going to be focusing in on this section up here, trying to fill in the top of the arch, and we'll see how far over I get. You'll see it now. And since then, I was able to add 557 stitches, which puts me at 39.78%. We are getting super close to 40%. I think it might happen in the next week, which is awesome. But here is where I got to. So basically what I worked on this time was the center of this arch here. I think I did a lot of the stitching in here. I brought this down a little bit further. I think I also worked a little bit up in here to get that sort of completed, but just working my way over the arch. I think these top sections here are the same in each arch, so I'm finally sort of getting the hang of how to stitch them and what's happening there with the pattern. But yeah, so that's what I've been sort of working on. This week I will continue to bring this down on the side, so I'll try to complete some of the arch going down that way. I might also work a little bit up here. I think there's another design that goes in up over here, which should be fun to stitch. So here is the full piece so far. This is stitched on a 36 count vintage country mocha with Silks for You PR 207, and I love it. I really love it. It's coming along so nicely. So that is my progress on Saga for the week. Next up, we've got Eclipse by Carolyn Manning. This is a piece I'm stitching for the round robin that I'm doing with Sheldon, Jason, and Yoshi. I'll link all 3 of their channels down below. We are doing a round robin where we'll each stitch a quarter of the piece that we chose, and then we'll pass it around for everybody else to stitch a quarter as well. So this is the piece I chose. I love the colors on this. And it will be nice that I only have to stitch each quadrant once since they are sort of repeating from side to side and top to bottom. So that will be nice, but it's a super fun piece to work on. It really is. I will put a picture in here of where I was the last time I started, And you'll have to forgive me, so I do have a lot of dangling threads here, which is just sort of the method that I'm using to stitch this piece. But since the last time you saw it, I was able to add in 609 stitches. I'm now at 17.31%, and here is what it looks like. So I've been stitching this using sort of the stair-step diagonal method, coming down this direction. So I think the last time you saw it, I don't think I was at the bottom corner here, and I know I didn't have this diagonal in here. And then I've also sort of started working down the next diagonal there. But the colors on this are just beautiful. I love how this is looking on the Aida. I'm using all the called for DMC, 2 strands over 1 on an 18 count white Charles Craft Aida, and I think the Aida really holds the stitches nicely for this piece, and I think it looks really great. So I'm having a lot of fun stitching this. I am still sort of stitching it more methodically, which is why I have parked threads, and because I'm stitching on the diagonal, but I found that to be sort of therapeutic, and I'm really enjoying it. I like being able to see the different colors as I go down the diagonal, and kind of, it's always fun when you get a new color that comes in. So yeah, really enjoying this piece. It's a little close-up of where I am, but again, my section, it's not a huge piece, so my section will end here and will end here, so it will just form this little quadrant, and then so I'm definitely over halfway of my section, and then that will get passed on to the next person to stitch whatever the next quadrant they want to. So that's my update on Eclipse. And the final piece I've got for you today is Strawberries Forever. This is from Told in a Garden. Here is what this is going to look like in the end. And these little pictures just really do not do it justice. I know we say that a lot about cross stitch, but when the picture is this small and there's just so much detail in the chart itself, it's really hard to capture what it is actually going to look like. So I was continuing to work on this for my Whip Go goal for June. I think I had 665 stitches to go to complete that, and I'm happy to say that I was able to add in 695 stitches. And it kind of all worked out where those stitches ended. So here's a video where I was when I started. All right, this is my starting point for Strawberries Forever for this week. And my goal is to work on those letters to get that word strawberries completed. And then I will jump up here to the central motif. We'll see if I get that done. Here it is now. And here is where I got to. So I was able to complete the words strawberries up there and that entire beautiful motif at the very top. So I don't know how well you can see, but the strawberries, the vines, the flowers, it's all so beautiful up there. I'm really happy with this. I love how it sort of frames the top of the piece. I love how it fits with the scene that's here, and I think it looks really great. So basically this Whip Go call, I had, I think, part of the house done, so maybe to here, but I was able to add in all of this and this top section. So that is a huge success. And for all of that to be in June, which is the Strawberry Moon Sal month, hosted by Marjorie Maid, is even better. It was perfect timing. So I'm really happy where I got to this. I'm stitching it with a paper pattern, so I don't have the percentage that I'm at, but you'll see here on the chart, I have everything now done from the top all the way down to, I think, right here under this first Amishman. So I'll have to complete this white fence and then everything below it, but I would say I'm at least 50%, maybe even 60% of the way done. These quilts will be a lot of fun to stitch once I get there, but here it is again. This is the top section. The next time I pull this out, I will have to obviously roll my scroll frame up, so you won't get to see this part anymore. So take a good look now while it's there. I think it looks beautiful, and those strawberries look tasty enough to eat for sure. So yeah, this is a lot of fun. Again, this always reminds me of growing up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where we were around the Amish, and they used to, in the summer, they used to put out strawberries at the end of their driveway, where you would put money in a bucket and then you could take like a pint of strawberries, and they were always so fresh and so good. And that's exactly what this piece reminds me of. So a little bit of home from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But yeah, really enjoyed it. There were so many color changes in this top section. It looks like it's maybe not that many colors, but that's because the blending is just perfection, honestly. But that meant there's like 1 or 2 stitches for each color in each little spot. Even those flowers, the white flowers there, I don't know how well you can see this, but there are 2 tans in each white flower. So just a lot of color changes, but that is really what makes the piece come together and give so much detail. So I'm very happy with it. I don't know when this will come back out, but I will be happy to see it again when it does. I am happy that I met my goal and now I can move on from it, because it is very tedious with all of those color changes, but still really loving the results. All right, and those are all my projects for the week. Now, I did also have one other thing that I worked on, but I'm not going to share that with you yet now. So stay tuned, because in a few days I'm going to be doing a little Flosstube extra, and I will share what I've been working on and sort of a little bit extra content for that. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that in a couple of days, and we'll talk about what else I worked on at that point. Okay, so as far as plans go, Whip Go, I did complete both goals for June. So Halloween Quaker was done at the beginning of the month. Strawberries Forever, I just finished kind of down to the wire on the very last day, but I got it done. And that means Whip Go was called for July now, because we're in July already. I can't believe it. So the numbers that were called for me were number 2, which is Black Roses. That is a piece by Al Forrest Embroidery that I am doing in all beads. And number 16, which is my Teresa Wentzler Egyptian sampler that I have not picked out in a while. So what I usually do for these is I spin the tiny decisions wheel I have to see how many stitches I will put on each project. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with you now. Now, there is one caveat, I will say, for Black Roses, because that is a beaded project and it takes a lot longer than just normal stitching. If I get a really high count number, I likely won't be able to meet it. Now, I definitely will still work on the piece, but just a heads up, the goal might not be met this month, depending on what the number is. So I'm going to go ahead and spin for 2 numbers to see what we're working on. So the first number here is 1,000. Okay, and that should be for Black Roses. So 1,000 beads for Black Roses. That might be doable, maybe. I know when I was doing Mania and did 500 stitches on Black Roses, that took me an entire weekend of just beading. So it is a big ask to get 1,000 in, but we'll see what I can do. So 1,000 beads for Black Roses, and then let's see how many stitches we're going to do on Egyptian Sampler by Teresa Wentzler. That will get 1,100. Okay, so right neck and neck. That's good. Okay, I will pop in a picture up here of what my Whip Go board looks like so you can see it up till now, and I'll have those numbers in there as well so you can see the full chart. I will also be keeping up with temperature stitching for this week, so I'll go ahead and pop a picture up here of what the new chart looks like. Everything in orange is what I have to stitch, and this week there were 4 days called for a French rose, 1 day called for Autumn Mrs. Joyful, so that means we only have 1 more day to be called, and then that one will be able to rotate through to another project, and then 2 days for Halloween Quaker. So that is my lineup for temperature stitching. As far as other plans go, I will definitely be keeping up with my marathon stitching on Fruits of Plenty. Saga will continue coming out as usual, and then from there I will kind of see what I want to work on. I will keep working on Eclipse, the round robin piece, just so I continue making progress and can get my section done for when we're ready to swap them. But other than that, I don't know. Maybe I'll pull out a Fancy Lady this week. I don't know what I'll stitch, which is kind of exciting. It is July, and a lot of people are doing Christmas in July, so there's a chance I might work on a couple Christmas pieces. Now, last year what I did was I started one of Nora Corbett's Reindeer and started it in July so that I could finish it at Christmas in December. I think that's what I'd like to do again this year, so I just need to kind of get all the materials ready. I have the fabric and everything together, but I just need to kind of compile it all in my project bag and then get that started. So that might be a start here in July. And I'd also like to pull out Santa's House, which I was working on last Christmas from Cottage Garden Samplings, to see if I can maybe get that finished here in the month of July. So just some tentative goals, but we'll see what happens. And yeah, we'll keep this one pretty short today. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed seeing my progress for the week. And keep running if you're a runner. Always keep stitching and be kind to whoever you meet on your journey. Bye for now. Until the next stitch.